Welcome to the Beyond Bound Coach and AD Professional Development Series, a weekly online professional development for athletic administrators and coaches. Join us as 6 former ADs now employed by Bound and with over 100 years of combined experience discuss topics important and beneficial to ADs and coaches. Join us on this journey of professional growth. We're here to help you take your coaching and athletic administration to the next level and beyond.
Welcome to another issue, or I shouldn't even say issue, I should say edition of Beyond Bound Professional Development for ADs and Coaches by ADs and Coaches. And today I thought we'd do some kind of fun for the holiday season. And what better topic to talk about for the holiday season than Santa Claus? And I thought about all the things that Santa Claus does for all of our little boys and girls all across the world. And so I thought, what better icon could we learn some leadership lessons from than jolly old Saint Nick? So we'll dive right in today. And everybody, see, I say Santa Claus and everybody smiles. I like that. So the first thing I thought about with Santa Claus is, and for all of us as leaders, is just the fact that he's generous and he's giving. He's known for being selfless. And as leaders, we can always learn that the importance of generosity is important in what we do. And, and that's not just being generous with gifts. That's being generous with praise. One thing I've learned as I've gotten older is how important it is for us to recognize talent, to recognize people doing great things. And we just got back from the national convention. Joey, I know that was your first time coordinating all those LTR courses. Absolutely awesome. For anybody who had a chance to take those LTI courses, there is many people behind the scenes, but Joey, definitely one of them. So thanks for all your work on that.
Thank you.
And that's crazy that we have that many courses going on within such a short period of time, and to have all the behind the scenes things going is amazing. So thanks for all your work on that.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of fun. Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it's so rewarding and so much fun to work with a lot of like-minded individuals.
Yes. And so that led me into our next one. And as leaders, it's so important that we have empathy and understanding. So we go back to Santa, and he just takes time to understand all the different people within his organization, all the children around the world, and how leaders can cultivate that empathy, but just listening. And how many times in our roles as leaders is listening so important what we do, whether that's listening to a parent who has a concern about their child's participation in our programs, or that's listening to our student athletes, but that's also getting to know our student athletes, our coaches, our parents, so that we can have that empathy and understanding, so that we can be the best leaders we can possibly be, just like good old Saint Nick. Here's one we can all, Joey, you can relate to this one, getting back from the conference. All of us come back from the conference, how important effective time management is. And what, one of the things at Bound that we really try to help you with as athletic directors is just to effectively manage that time. So we go back to our icon of Santa Claus, and he's able to deliver gifts all over the world in one night. And obviously that, takes some exceptional time management skills. And so, little known fact that Santa Claus has now implemented Bound to effectively manage all of his time and his schedule so he can get to all those kids' houses on time. I don't know if anybody knew that or not, but
I was just going to add, he must have used Bound.
He had to have used Bound. There's no doubt. And so we get into that adaptability. and how important it is for us as leaders to be adaptable. We've all think of times in our coaching or our lives as athletic directors where we've had to overcome something that might have happened. Maybe the light shut out at the stadium right in the middle of the game, or we had a flood in our offices the day before, we had something huge going on. Any of those things that we have that go on, it's always, and I always think of Mr. Gordon here. He's always, talks about adaptability and the ability to overcome those obstacles that we run into. So just like Santa might run into some unpredictable weather, just like we do as ADs, and we've got to adapt and overcome in those times. Another one, Santa relies on those team of elves, those reindeers, and so many others to accomplish that mission of delivering toys. Just as leaders, we need others around us, and how important it is us to have that team of people, our coaches, our student athletes, all moving in the same direction, all having that mission and vision and those core values that bring us to where we need to go. And it is so important as a leader that we surround ourselves with good people. And just as Joey just said, coming back from that national conference, you get a shot of adrenaline going there and just surrounding yourself with like-minded people, and recognizing in this role you cannot do it alone. And I think that's something that here at Bound we really aspire to is to be a part of your team and to collaborate with you to make sure that you've got that team surrounding you that you need, or just be an extension of your program. And then we go into the resilience, and we run into things just like Santa does. He runs into harsh weather. That one fateful Christmas night when Rudolph saved the day. He's got tight deadlines, and as athletic leaders, we understand that we've got important things that go on, and we've got people that really want things to happen. And whether it's wins, whether it's their student athlete, being a starter or being a star, and that always comes with it some challenges that we need to, as leaders, persevere through some of those times that are really tough. Be able to help others through challenging times, and always be consistent in what we do. And as always, we're always moving forward, even when the times get tough. Positive reinforcement, just as Santa emphasizes that nice list, we need to be, as leaders, motivate and always have that positive attitude. Always, even in those times of challenges, we need to have that light that we can shine so that others can follow that light. And recognizing, all the great things that our student athletes do. And I saw student athletes, but how important it is for us to, drop our coaches a note to tell them good job, or to send one of our student athletes, hey, I saw you in the hallway yesterday and you're helping some kid. Those are the things that we need to do as leaders to really shine light and positively reinforce all those things that our student athletes that do that are great, and our coaches that do that are great. And sometimes it's even reaching out to parents and letting them know that their student athletes, the good things that they do when they're not around. One thing Santa does so well, and it's tough as any leader, is just to be consistent. So always staying true to our values, always knowing that our mission and our vision guide us. And as athletic coaches, as athletic directors, it's important that we keep those kids first. And how can we maintain that consistency and leadership style, and we're not a roller coaster, so that when our coaches, our student athletes come in, that we're consistent in what we do. And that just builds trust and credibility. And how important is that? We go back to those times of trials and tribulations, and that consistency and that building trust and that credibility that you build as an athletic director is so important in what you do. And then obviously this is something I love, is strategic planning. And I love getting to go to the national conference and teach 799, which is a program that the NIAAA has had for many years, and has recently caught on. And we've got tons of people going through this, but it's a quality program assessment, and it's such a great tool for athletic directors to use to go through a strategic planning process, and how important it is for us to have a plan. You know, just like any good coach, you don't go into a game without a plan. You don't go into a game without watching film and learning what that team does well and how you're going to take that away. Just like in our roles as athletic leaders, it is so important that we plan, we set clear goals, we develop those well thought out strategies, because at the end of the day, that's going to lead us to success. And just like we talked about it before, we need a great team to do that. So how important it is that Santa strategically plans his route, just as we do as athletic directors. And joy and positivity. You know, Santa brings that joy and happiness wherever he goes. How can we do that as athletic leaders? You know, we need to understand the impact that we have, whether good or bad. You know, we have such a huge responsibility in our roles as an athletic director and a coach. And it is so important that we spread that positivity. You know, we lead what we tell kids that we're about. So we need to lead those core values in our practices, in our classrooms, in what we do each and every day. And we go right back to that consistency and how important all these things tie together to really make us an absolutely amazing athletic director. And now I'll turn it over to our great panel here. So Brian, I know you got to take off. So how about you share some of your thoughts on the presentation today?
Yeah, no, great job, Scott. I don't know how you think that stuff up so quick, but really, really good, and really good lesson to think through right now anyway. You know, it's kind of that mid-break for everybody where they're going to gear up to get into the next part of the year. And these are all great lessons for ADs or coaches to just sit back and kind of think about. But two of them, I mean, they all stuck out, but two of them in particular, I thought go together, stick out really well. And probably because they were things that I really heavily relied on. And that was number 5, where you talked about relying on a team. You know, good things happen at your school. Anything happens, and it's because of your team. I mean, I felt awkward even receiving any bit of praise because there are so many other people around you, including maybe your conference ADs, maybe your AD friends, but also in your own building, your secretaries, your principal, your superintendent, all these people. And I certainly had a great team, but I think as ADs, we need to realize you have to do whatever you can to surround yourself with those types of people, whatever you can. If it means you got to get rid of some people off the bus because of their negativity every day or whatever, so that you can bring somebody in, it's so important, and relying on them. But then, Scott, you said it twice, actually. You said it in number 1 and you said it again in number 7. It's then being positive with those people, reinforcing them or praising them for who they are and what they do. Make sure everyone knows what they are accomplishing or helping to accomplish. And I think for me, this really hit home when things were really hard too. Is it felt so much better when things were hard that I was not on my island. And as ADs, that's hard because you can feel pretty lonely. So those two things, I think, Scott, very timely, something that all ADs need to work on. But again, great message today.
Thank you. Todd, how about you?
Great job, Scott. This was good and a lot of fun. Made us smile a lot of times too. That's good. I could go with the obvious for me, which would be adaptability, and talk on that for a half hour. But the one thing, it's something I read this week, is it goes right along with what Brian just said. And it was a thought about having the courage to encourage.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And sometimes that's hard to do because, well, number one, it takes the focus off of ourselves. We all like to receive encouragement, but that's a selfless leader. Going back to number one, that generosity and giving. And secondly, I think the hardest part is encouraging people who are pain, who are just constantly complaining.
Yep.
And sometimes those are the hardest people to encourage, but we need to have the courage to do that too. And we need to have courage to encourage them because also they're going to disappoint us.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't encourage them along the way too. So just that weaved in there several times. That came to my mind is just having the courage to encourage.
Yep. I love that. That's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Mark?
Yeah, this was really fun and enlightening and reinforcing and a lot of things, Scott. This was awesome. I think you indicated toward the end how they're all tied together. And I really believe that. There's 10 things here. We need all of those as leaders, whether we're an athletic director, a coach, or just the leader of your family. You need all these things. Now, we're better at some than at others. There's no doubt about it. Some of these are our strengths and some we got to work on. But I want to talk about resilience a little bit because I think that's really important as a leader, that you can quickly overcome obstacles. And, being resilient is kind of that elasticity. You bounce back.
Yeah.
And so you have to be able to bounce back because you're going to run into a wall. You're going to have things that happen. And it could just be a loss as a coach, a devastating loss. Well, how quickly are you going to bounce back and be resilient and face your team the next day, pick them up, and move forward? And so you have to be resilient. You have to have that elasticity within your mindset and the framework in which you work. So that's one of my favorites.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Mr. Stecker.
Boy, Jarvis, you just kind of maybe outlined and set up like the next 10 Beyond Bounds, because we could take one session for each of those topics and then some. But no surprise that you did a top 10 list, although.
I love it.
So two things. I'll touch on one of them quick that I just underlined because in number 2 with the empathy and understanding, you talked about one of the lines you had in there was compassion and decision making.
Yep.
And we've got to make some tough decisions sometimes. And frankly, like Scott or Todd was just alluding to, sometimes we've got to make tough decisions wrapped around people who just aren't our favorite people in the world. And I know behind the scenes we might be like grumbling and complaining and frustrated and we don't want to have that. But I always try to remind myself when I went into a tough decision, whether it be with a coach, with a student athlete, or with a parent, that those folks from their perspective are just advocating for themselves or advocating for their child or for their team. And as much as it might be a pebble in my shoe and had been for a month, when I'm coming to that final decision, I try to stop, take a deep breath and see it from their perspective and try to remember they're just trying to do the best they can for their people on that, and try to remind myself of that before I had that. Otherwise, you're just dropping a tough decision and dropping a brick on them and walking away. And we can't do that as leaders or we'll lose that trust and credibility. The second one was the consistency piece. And I've always talked when people asked about, Kennedy, the school I was at, and why we seem to just be always competitive, maybe not always great, but always competitive. And I always talked about the consistency of culture. Clearly, you have to have a good culture. First of all, if it's a bad culture, you don't want that to be consistent. But if you take the time to build up a positive, encouraging, trusting culture, and then you keep your people around, you build that consistency in culture so people know what to expect, know how to operate, and it gives them the freedom then. They trust the culture. Now they can expand and be innovative and creative within that. And that only comes with consistency. If they're constantly turning over coaches, turning over leaders, everybody's always trying to figure out what's our culture first. And if you're figuring that out, you can't be innovative and creative and expand on it. So that's another huge one to work on, and keep your people around as long as you possibly can.
That's awesome. Mr. Struy, wrap this baby up for us. Put a nice big bow on this.
Put a bow on it, right?
Put a bow on it.
A couple of things that I wrote down was one, the adaptability, and I'm going to kind of relate this and how it went back to Santa. Santa is always updating his nice list and his naughty list, and it changes. So we have to be flexible, just like Santa does, because as an athletic director, you are going to have to update your nice list and your naughty list constantly as well.
No doubt.
Now, does that naughty list get a lump of coal in their stocking at Christmas? You know, you probably can't go that far, because as Aaron said, you have to lead positively with all of those people, even though you may not want to. I mean, you may not have that emotion in the moment. You still have to lead positively. And collaboration, just like Santa drives his sleigh, but he doesn't make it go. It takes a whole team of reindeer to pull that sleigh. So we need to find those reindeer in our circle, in our coaching staffs, in our own administrative staffs that help pull that sleigh. And my last comment is one thing that Mark just said was about we don't all lead strongly in every area, but that's why you have a team. You look for team members who can make up for your own weaknesses. What can they bring to the team that I lack? But in order to do that, you have to be self-aware enough to know that you lack certain qualities.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, everybody, thank you so much. I just want you all to know, and this is our team on Beyond Bound here, but thank you for everything that you do. We talk about that team. We talk about all these things that we go through leadership, and there's so many things that I see in each of you that I wish I could be better at. And that's why it's so amazing to work with you. And that's why it's so amazing to go to the National Athletic Director Conference and be around people that you admire. And I'm lucky enough to be able to be with you almost every day and admire the work that you do. So thank you. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays from all of us at Beyond Bound. And if you ever need anything, we are all here to help you as a coach or athletic director reach your goals, reach your mission, reach your vision. And with that, again, Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.